Good morning, everybody. Welcome to For Love and Money. I'm your host, Sharon Brandon, and today our special guest is the beautiful Debbie Casagrande. So I'm just going to read a little bio out of Debbie's. Now, I know Debbie, and I know this is a very short bio. Debbie does so much more than this, but this will give you a fair idea of what Debbie does. So Debbie uses a unique combination of methods in her coaching work: personal development training, human behavioural research, and the work of Dr. David Demartini, which is called the Martini Method.
Dr. John Martini.
John Martini, sorry, John Martini. She assists her clients to evolve to be able to live their most inspiring life possible by using these methods. Debbie's approach is direct and concise, getting to the root of the perceived challenge straight away, allowing her clients to come to a space of love where they can see that there is good in what has happened and what is now. So welcome, Debbie. Lovely to have you today. So today we're actually talking about separations, aren't we? Because there's so many people going through separations at the moment. And I work with couples to do what's called the the conscious uncoupling, which helps couples stay friends and things like that. But that's not always possible for couples to do. I know that you have gone through a separation yourself. And so if you can just tell our audience what that was like for you and what you did to get yourself through that process.
Yes, so 13 years ago, I separated from my husband. Now, that was my choice back then. I was very new to, I've dabbled in personal development and human behavior for a lot of years. So from the age of 28, when I got chronic fatigue, I thought there was something bigger to learn around that. So I've dabbled over a lot of years. Then at the age of 40, 13 years ago, I separated. So with that, being extremely challenging, it set me on a path to look at things on a different light. Now, I separated, and with that came massive separation of the family unit, purely because my kids also chose to stay with their dad. Like, you know, when you're married and have kids, or a partner and have kids, or even a partner or a marriage and it's stepkids, there's still separation. There's still feelings, emotions, beliefs that go around that. Yeah. So for me, it was anger, because we can have a situation in our life, we don't know what feeling's going to arise until it happens. Okay. So anger, even though it was my choice, there was the belief that I was abandoned. There was feelings of separation. There was
it's that terrible severing, isn't it? It's that severing of everything, and it can feel like so finite and awful, isn't it? It's a terrible feeling.
It's low self-worth, yeah. So a big pot of mixed feelings, emotions, beliefs, triggers, because I didn't think it was going to be like you. Yeah. As I said, you can't prepare for something that you've never experienced before. Right now, would I go through it again? It wouldn't be my choice to go through it again. I'm remarried. But even though I know those feelings and emotions from back then, something different feelings and emotions might arise.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's such a... well, they say, the worst thing is kind of, it's a death in a way, isn't it? It's a death of something, and there's all that grieving process that comes with that. And so all those feelings that you've just described is so much about that grieving process.
Yeah, well, there can be two lots of groups of feelings and emotions. I believe that, like, if a client comes to me and they're, you know, a mind mess, for want of a better terminology, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. There can be anger and resentment to the partner.
Yeah.
Or there can be the grief and loss, which you mentioned as well. So we may need to work through one or both, or, you know, like each client, it's, for me, I love being able to help them actually identify which is it one or the other, or is it both? Because until you identify that, you can't, how do we stay in that emotional turmoil, which then can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, you know, all those things that are overflow or a, you know, a repercussion of a situation or event.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the questions that I really wanted to ask you is, how long really have you been doing this specific work that you're doing right now with your clients?
As I said, I've dabbled over a lot of years, specifically for at least 10 years. The reason being is when I separated from my ex and lots of stuff going on, I've always been interested in human behavior, personal development, human growth, all that sort of stuff. So really that for me is about working out how the mind ticks. And so when I was 40, separated a year later, I went and did a really, really intensive course. It was in Hawaii, and a week of doing the work, I realized by, you know, I was there for personal reasons. I didn't really know that that was going to be a passion, and then I would be able to help myself to the degree that I could then be able to help others. So at the end of that course, I really got a deep shift in consciousness, and that aha, that at that point in time, that I really want to find any tools and techniques that would help me get by to be able to survive anything, because life will throw us curveballs.
Absolutely.
We don't know what curveballs are going to be, and essentially we don't know what feelings and emotions are going to come up. So that set me on a path then to learn tools and techniques to help me get by, so then essentially I can help my clients get by as well.
And I guess you kind of just answered my question, because the next question was going to be, is what's your why?
Because I know what it's like to be in emotional turmoil. Like, you know, if you think of a massive event, and it could be anything, you know, today we're talking about separation. We don't want to be stuck in that. So can I tell you a story?
Yes, please.
A client, so this is a real story. A client came to me, and it was, and of course I never tell names or anything like that, but it's, you know, no one knows who this person is. But a client came, she was in stress and struggle for 2 years after a separation. So I would automatically go to, well, you know, is there any anger or resentment to him? Do you believe he did anything to you, or didn't, you know, what's going on? So we identified that wasn't the challenge. So the challenge was the breakup of the family unit. So massive, as you mentioned, grief and loss over the family unit. So what it was important for me to do was identify everything that she believed she was missing. So grief and loss is coming from something that you perceive is missing in your life. So there was, you know, the family unit sitting down with the family of night, telling, you know, watching TV. There was, she had to at this point in time take care of all her finances that she'd never done before.
Yeah, wow, that's a big one, isn't it? Yeah.
That was a big one.
Yeah, that's really scary.
She perceived that was missing because no one was there to do it for her. She had to do it by herself. There was no one to go for walks and bike rides and do those family activities. So, you know, there can be a list of 10 to 12 specific things that the client will perceive to be missing. So then we'll go, okay, who's doing that now? So for the finances, for her, it was her doing it now. So that gave her back her own power.
Yeah.
And when we got
Yeah.
to I'm getting goosebumps now, because she got to a realization that that was more benefit to her than having that in the family unit.
So she's kind of gotten rid of her dependency, hasn't she, on that other person, and come back into herself and realised that she's able to do this for herself.
Which then brings back your confidence, your self-worth. It's easy to get, if we don't know how, it's easy to get lost in a relationship, lose our confidence in a relationship, lose our self-worth. So then we identified that she was reading to the kids every night. So she was laying in bed with them. She was reconnecting with her family. Whereas when it was the bigger picture, the kids would go to bed by themselves, sort of thing. So she was creating a deeper connection with her kids that wasn't there before. So when we worked through every single thing that she perceived to be missing, she was so grateful that that family unit split up, and there was no way she would want to go back to that. And to have two parents that are happy separated than two parents together that are in a struggle street.
Yeah.
So that's why I do, like, when I can get a client to a point of having a complete different understanding of what's going on, and they're not stuck in the past. Oh my God, it's
your why. And for those of you who don't know Debbie, I know Debbie, and I can tell you now that you can't tell, even though she's very enthusiastic at the moment, you can't tell how actually warm she is. And when you're in Debbie's presence, you feel really safe. So I'm imagining you also offer that to your clients. It's a very safe place for them to unpack what it is that's happening internally for them.
Definitely. So long as the client's ready.
Yes.
Like my client, they're ready. They've potentially tried other things, or they know they don't want to try those other things, but they're really ready to let go of that, to have that bigger picture understanding, so that they can come back to a state of love and gratitude, so they can get on.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's a beautiful example. Thank you for that. I'm sure our audience will get a lot out of that. So I guess for someone who's right now, who's just really in that raw state of having that breakdown of relationship, and their partners that are fighting with each other, and they're just not going to go into sort of a situation with me, for example, where they do that sort of reconciliation and work together. If they've had that kind of really, battle that is occurring, what's the sort of the 5 sort of tips that you give for them to get through that really distressed stage? What's the 5 things do you think are really important to work on?
Yeah.
Besides coming to see you.
Firstly, I can totally understand that. Like, I get that feeling. I know it. I understand it. I've been, even having the conversation to say, I want to separate, that is so hard. Like, I totally get that. So what I would do would be, generally, if with a separation that we know needs to happen for whatever reason, I would ask my clients to identify what the fear is. Because if we didn't have any fear, we would just do it. So I would, one, identify the fear of the separation. What is your fear? And for everyone, it's going to be different. It might be a fear of not having that family unit. It might be a fear of having to do it alone. It might be a fear of one income rather than 2 income, a fear of, God, where am I going to live, sort of thing. I went from March till September, October, and we knew I was moving out. I couldn't find anywhere. I'd never rented in my life. So no one would take me because I'd never rented before. So, there's the fear of the unknown. So we would identify the fear of the unknown. And then I would ask, okay, say it's a fear of having no finances or reduced income. That might be a big fear. So I'll go, okay, what is the fear? And it might be fear of, you know, not being able to pay rent or something like that. So then in that instance, it would be get strategies together on how to overcome that. So if our mind knows the answer for the future, then it's less of a fear. So really, if there's going to be no income, reach out. Like, I know that if I put a post up now on Facebook and said, I need to live somewhere for a month, I've got very little income, I know if I had no family members around here, someone would be able to help me. Like, we do actually live in a caring world when we ask for help. So that could be fear of income. I would also suggest, because we generally have a fear of something that's actually identifying from the past. So like me, for instance, now our income was reduced down to nothing. So for me, it was like, where did that fear come from? Which was 13 years ago when I left home and I was living off $30 a week.
Those trigger points, those trigger points that we have.
So how did I survive that? What did I do? You know, friends asked me over for dinner. I went for what I found activities that cost nothing. So identify what the fear is, and then see where that's come from in the past. Did you survive it? Yes, obviously, because we're still here today. And ask what you learnt back in that experience. If it's fear of separation, of having no one around, go to that moment in the past where you had no one around and look at the benefits, or look at how that served you. Look at how did you grow back at that time. So one, identify that you're going to have emotions, and that's normal. 2, identify what your fear might be. 3, 5 steps. 3, how did those challenging moments in the past that you're relating to the fear, how did that serve you? What did you learn from it? Who did you connect with? So when I separated, I connected with so many different people. I built up a business that I just opened from scratch. I engrossed myself in business, and it set me on a different path. It also
you did incredibly well, didn't you, when you separated like in that way? You did really well.
I definitely allowed for things to change. So
Okay, Debbie. So I just want everyone to pay attention to the beautiful background there. Now, this is Debbie's resort, and you're currently selling your resort, aren't you, Debbie?
I currently am. So 3.5 years ago, my husband and I purchased this place. We have like bed and breakfast accommodation. We've had lots of retreats. I've been able to help lots of clients, and I generally only ever work with individuals to really, come back home to themselves.
Doing that personal work.
Yeah, so my huge priority now is helping clients really transform their life. So I don't need a resort to do that. So it is time to move on so I can focus on doing that one thing I love. So the resort is selling.
Up for sale.
I'm putting it out to the universe. I'm going to say what's happened.
It is a stunning resort. It's such a beautiful space that you've created there. I'm sure somebody's going to come along and snap that up. It's stunning. It really is.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, we've been talking to the beautiful Debbie Casagrande, who's an amazing life coach, so much more than a life coach. And I really encourage you to contact her personally. I've known Debbie for some time now. She's a person who really is in her integrity and is amazing at what she does. So if you're going through that terrible separation and you need that support, Debbie's the person you need to contact. So, okay, everybody, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to For Love and Money. We love it here when we have these wonderful conversations with amazing speakers, and we'll be talking to you again very soon. Remember, love each other. There's no time for anything else. Bye for now.
See you.
Thanks, Debbie.